friends. I'm going to show you how to do this virtual field trip. Oh, I'm muted. Let me unmute. Okay, hopefully that works. Okay, I'm going to show you all how to do this virtual field trip. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to the link, and then I recommend, if you can, either split your screen. I know I'm pretty lucky because I have another monitor I can throw my assignment over on. Um, so I can kind of do both at the same time. But here's what you're going to see when you click on the link. It's going to take you to this site that's called Dollar Street. And so in order to do the first step, you're going to click over here on the world, and you're going to see, I'm going to move this out of the way. You're going to see 4 regions. And I would like you to choose a country from any one of the regions that you want. So I'm going to start with China. And then, oops, I got to get out of the way. Let me move that down there. And then you're going to click OK. And so now I'm headed to China. So what I see here in China is they've given me 4 families I can look at. And it shows me, oh, it's more than that. My computer was just being a little bit slow. But it tells me how much money in dollars each family makes a month. Okay, so this is per month. So the next thing I want to do is I want to look at this graphic up here at the top, which shows me a range of how wealthy people are in China and how poor they are. So in China, you can see that there are some people who are really pretty wealthy. They're towards the richest side of the spectrum, and that there are people way down here that are pretty close to being quite poor. So what that tells me is that there's a broad gap between the wealthy and the poor. So in other words, we don't see everybody clustered all over on the wealthy side or everybody clustered over on the poor side. We see a broad range. We're going to talk later about what kinds of problems that can produce when you have some people who are really, really wealthy and some people who are really, really poor. So the next thing we're going to do is pick a family to visit. So I'm going to choose this family right here that's somewhere in the middle. They're not, and you don't have to choose anybody in the middle or on the ends. You can just choose whoever you want. You can pick anybody here that looks interesting that you want to choose. So I'm going to pick on this family. And then over here on the right, it tells me I can actually visit this family. So I'm going to visit them. And then it's going to tell me a little bit about the family. So this says that this is the Chen family. They live in the Yunnan province of China, and I can see where that's located in East Asia. China is the biggest country in East Asia, in that region of the world. So it tells me that Huaxin, I'm sure that's not how you say it, but I don't speak Mandarin Chinese very well, is 49 years old and is a skilled worker. So that's the job that he does. He's a worker and he has some kind of training in whatever work he does. His wife is 44 and she is a farmer. They live with their 2 children and a grandparent in a 2-bedroom house. They own the house. They've been living there for 5 years. And I can read on, and it's going to tell me more information about them. Then I can actually go inside their house virtually. So some things that I can see, I can click on anything I want, but I did give you a list of some things that I do want you to look at if you can. One of them is, what do their everyday shoes look like? Believe it or not, you can learn a lot about someone's access to wealth just by looking at the kinds of footwear that they have. That's kind of considered not their fancy shoes, but like their everyday shoes that they wear. So that's why we look at that. You can look at a whole bunch of other things. I did want you guys to look at the bathrooms. I know that sounds really gross, but you can tell a lot about the wealth of a family by looking at how their sanitation is. And all you have to do is really look at their bathroom to kind of get an idea of that. So I do want you guys to click around. Then when you get back into your document, what I've done is, as usual, I give you like a green box when I want you to respond. So you always know when you see a green box, there's something you should type in that box. So I want you to talk to me about where you see most of the houses clustered in that place, which we saw when we were looking at this image up here. For China, we would say they're not really clustered on one side or the other. They're really kind of spread out along the spectrum. So I want you to talk to me about that. Then, as I asked you, you could click around, but I do want you to try to visit their bathroom, their bedroom. I want you to see what they use for cooking. If you can get drinking water, access to, like, what does their drinking water look like? Their everyday shoes. And there's one that shows you the back of their hand. I know now you can see my tattoo, but you can learn a lot about a society and their access to wealth just by looking at the back of their hand. I mean, you look at the back of my hand and you see I have a wedding ring. That's like, that says something about our access to wealth. I have a tattoo, obviously. That says something about access to wealth and like some of the things about our culture. So that's what I want you guys to do. Then I want you to describe what you see. You don't have to comment on every single thing. Okay, so if it doesn't show the back of their hand or if it doesn't show their bathroom, don't worry about it. You can skip that, but try to describe as much of this kind of stuff as you can see. And then I want you to go back to step 2. Okay, so basically what that means is, and I don't know if my screen is a little bit stuck, it seems to be kind of slow, but I want you to go back and do it again by going to the world and then going back to those 4 regions. And I want you to choose a different region. So here, hopefully it's gonna help me to do that again. Okay, here we go. Again, everything is a little slow today, especially on Screencastify. And I know some of you guys said that you were having trouble on Screencastify today. Okay, so it's taking me back to my 4 regions, and it's gonna slowly show me my countries. But I wanna pick a country from a region that I haven't looked at yet. Okay, so since I chose China, I would like you to choose a different country from a different region. So maybe I would go to Europe or the Americas or Africa. Okay, and then you're basically going to go through that whole thing one more time. Okay, once you finish that, we're going to go into the analyze part. So I want you to think about where you see the wealthiest people in the world and where you see the poorest people in the world. If you need to go back and click around and explore a little bit more to really feel like you're giving a good answer to that, you can. Okay. Then, based on your observations and based on this field trip, what you've seen, and then also a little bit of what you kind of already know from your own experiences, what does wealth, how does that impact things like your health? So like if you saw the pots and the pots had a lot of dirt around them, or you see that people are sleeping on the floors, or you see that that they don't have sanitation, which takes away all of their trash and their excrements and things like that. Okay, so, what does that mean when we're talking about health? If they don't have access to clean water and they don't have access to sanitation? Okay, some families have computers, some families do not. So, talk to me about how that affects access to education. What would that say about education? Or you might read that some of the kids, they don't really go to school, or they maybe go to school for a couple of hours, but then after the age of like 14, they stop going to school, or they have to travel really far to go to school. So I want you to talk to me a little bit about that. And then this last one, the number of children in a family. What did you notice? Okay, did families have more children if they were wealthier, or did they have more children when they were less wealthy? Okay, I want you to comment on that. That one's really, really important. And then finally, what kinds of jobs do people have in the poorer places? I want you to go based on what you're observing from this field trip. What kinds of jobs do people have in the richer places? Because we're going to learn a lot more about that as far as how that indicates levels of development in the world. Then I just want you to give me one other conclusion. Just what's one thing that you can conclude, or something that if you pull all these pieces together, what's something that you now know is true or that you've learned as a result of taking this field trip? Okay, and then that's it. And then you can submit it and then move on to the next thing.